Previously on No Reserves Radio.
Oh my God, Angelo! Come on, have some self-respect. The Eagles can't hurt you if you don't constantly pander to them.
Here's the biggest indictment of Dame that I can say. Dame has been so off this year that Ren went on live air and said Jalen Brunson deserved an all-star start over him.
You are now Angelo Didululo.
Do you think it is possible that the management of the Memphis Grizzlies are just buying into the reckless youth movement and they got rid of the one person in the locker room that probably was telling Ja to knock it off?
Because he's taken advantage of me multiple times when I was younger. That sounded bad. Holy shit.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think you're correct in that assessment.
That was weird. What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of No Reserves Radio. I'm your host, Angelo. With me, as always, is Alex. And Alex, did you get enough sleep after the draft?
Hey, what's going on, guys? What's going on, Angelo? Yeah, I'm not gonna say I managed to get sleep. I managed to close my eyes for a few hours. And I wasn't necessarily functional the day after. But a week after, we're here, and it's all good now.
So, how do you think the Seahawks did?
I actually liked our draft quite a bit. I mean,
Really?
there's picks that I probably could have done a bit different. But overall, I liked our draft quite a bit. I think we didn't go for the... How do you put it? It's not a wrong pick, but the less efficient picks of, for example, what happened last year, drafting a backup running back in the second round. We didn't make those sorts of mistakes. We drafted positions that we actually needed, and we drafted positions that are actually valuable. I like Byron Murphy's pick quite a bit. That was like our
The
first round
interior
pick.
lineman, yeah.
Yeah, it was a pretty sweet get for us, in my opinion. I also like what was it? Oh, it was the fifth round pick, Nehemiah Pritchett from Auburn. As far as I'm concerned, he was a pretty good corner. He's a lean, but very fast corner that I thought should have gone a bit higher, but sort of tended to fall off of the draft quite a bit. And we managed to pick him up. We didn't overdraft, for example, a linebacker, an inside linebacker. We got one in the fourth round, which looks okay to me. He's not like great or anything, but it should be a solid rotation piece to start. And I liked our guard pick from UConn, our third round pick, Christian Haynes. I mean, I think he's an absolute beast of an athlete and should serve us pretty well now that we lost Damian Lewis. But what do you think of your Cincinnati Bengals picks?
Well, first off, seems like the Seahawks and the Bengals kind of had a similar outlook because it seems like you guys drafted a lot of guys on the front line, the offensive line, and then the back seven on defense or the front seven on defense. The Bengals draft, I was actually really conflicted with because a lot of the picks we made, I think, they were kind of raw. There was a lot of really good picks, but I think there's a lot of players that need to be developed. Like the wide receiver we selected needs some time in the oven. I really did love the selection of Amarius Mims after Brock Bowers. Obviously, Brock Bowers was going to be the pick, I think. After that, going to Mims was a very good choice. It seems like a lot of the picks the Bengals have been making on the offensive line have been for SEC offensive linemen. So that was just on par. What do you think of Jamie Burton, just out of curiosity? Or Jermaine Burton, Jermaine Burton.
He's a tough one, isn't it? I mean, you look at like the athletic scoring, and if I'm not mistaken, I'm gonna pull those up here. So I have an open. but I
They're
think
average.
he
He ran like
tested.
a 4.48 if I'm not
Yeah, I
mistaken.
think he tested pretty okay-ish. He didn't like do anything amazing, but he tested okay. I guess the main concern here is that he got basically kicked out of two elite programs. I guess he didn't ended up being kicked out of Alabama, but the reports weren't nice to him. He spent 2 years in Georgia. He spent 2 years on Alabama. The first 2 years in Georgia, apparently, he got ran out of the locker room. He wasn't the best of guys in that locker room. His production overall wasn't great. I mean, never had over 800 yards ever. But it's telling that a team saw all of this and heard all of the reports just as much as we did.
And he's
Uh,
almost 23.
and he's
He's almost
almost
23 too.
23, and like he didn't test super great. His measurements aren't like out of this world. I mean, he's
I
six
mean, his
foot
burst score, 91st
196.
percentile burst score is pretty decent. But yeah, other than that, 80th percentile 40 is the speed score of 67th percentile is pretty close to it. So yeah,
High
I get what you're
breakout
saying.
age as well. So,
High breakout age,
but
yeah.
yeah, even after all of this, he still got third round draft capital, which is interesting. And I mean, should at least tell you that the team has somewhat of a trust in him. And you can't go really to a better room, I guess. I mean, T. Higgins, probably a class act, never heard anything of him. Joe Burrow is a very good-minded guy, I guess, a great leader in the locker room. Should probably be able to rile him up and just tell him when to stop. And Chase, I mean, Chase is just great as well. So, I mean, if you're going to a locker room with those sort of personalities and you still don't straighten up, then I guess you never really had a chance. Only the future will tell you if he can keep, if he can stay on a like narrow path going forward, or if it's what we saw in Alabama and Georgia is what we're gonna see at the next level, and he's out of the league in like 2 years.
Yeah,
But
very possible.
I think it's a risky pick that can pay out. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, and going on, it seemed like we focused on the defensive tackle. We actually used two of our first 3 or 4 picks on defensive tackle. Chris
Yeah,
Jenkins out of Michigan, and then after we got Burton, we went to Jackson.
yeah, McKinley Jackson out of Texas
Yeah,
A&M.
so overall, I'm actually I'm not gonna lie. I see a lot of people I might take a shot on in the Bengals like draft because not only did they draft 2 D tackles, they also told you that we kind of want to get the tight end position right too. After they got done drafting the 2 D tackles in round 4, 5, and 6, 2 of those selections were tight ends.
Yeah, that was what I was gonna say as well. You can clearly see a focus on trying to get the tight end position moving. They acquired Gesicki in free agency. You saw them trying to get Tanner Hudson a bit more involved last year. Now they go into
Yep.
this draft and they draft Eric Hall out of Iowa in the fourth
Hmm.
round, and then Iowa is just tight end you, right? And then you
Yep.
follow it up with a sixth round pick on I mean,
McLaughlin.
I'm
McLaughlin.
not gonna butcher that one. McLaughlin,
McLaughlin.
out of
Yeah.
Arizona. I think Eric Hall actually has some nice upside in terms of fantasy
Hmm.
football because Gesicki has been having troubles as of late, staying healthy. After a few good years in Miami, sort of got derailed last season. He was, if I'm not mistaken, with the Patriots, didn't really do much. Now he goes here, and you could possibly see some glimpses of what we once saw in Miami. But with a guy like Eric Hall being drafted here, I mean, I believe he had 2.62 yards per route run in
Hmm.
2023, which, if I'm not mistaken, is the second amongst the draft eligible tight ends. So I think he is a good pick and someone to keep an eye on. Could be one of those sneaky tight ends that actually get some sort of production early on, instead of having to wait for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Also, apparently, Eric Hall is coming off an ACL injury, so that's
Yeah, that was the big thing with him. But apparently, like they seem to be okay enough with him. I mean, they spent a fourth round pick on him. It's a day three pick, but it's not change, I guess.
Interesting. But yeah, regardless, and I do think the tight end position has been a position that we've needed to get right for a lot of years now. It seems like with Burrow, and actually even before Burrow, it seems like our philosophy with tight end is just it's a revolving door. I'm struggling to remember the last consistent tight end. It's not Ebron, that's Detroit. Who was the tight end we selected with? We selected with like a first or second round pick
There
like
was
10
one
years ago
guy
now.
that was very good for you a few years ago, right when I started playing fantasy football.
I know.
Uh, what was his name? I can only remember Uzama, but it's not Uzama. It's another guy
Nice.
with like a fairly weird name. Um, he was with you guys in what, 2015? Tyler Eifert. That's it.
Tyler Eifert. Yes, that is it.
That's it.
Tyler Eifert. But he's the last like really good tight end I can remember for the Bengals. Other than that, it's been like a revolving door, and I do agree that we need to get it right. I'm not sure if one of the tight ends we selected is the answer, but I do think that tight end takes a while to develop, so maybe.
Yeah. And you're looking at the production from Eric Holland, like in college, it didn't really wow you with anything. I mean, he spent 3 years at Michigan, then 1 year in Iowa, never
Yeah.
had 500 yards. But again, tight end production is probably
It's
one
hard,
of
dude.
the, yeah, and it's
It's
one of the
hard.
least important things when you're
Like,
projecting someone at the next level. There's almost no correlation. So
that's kind
I
of the
guess it's a
thing
good
with
shot.
Brock Bowers is that you just don't know. Like he's a freakish athlete, dude. But at the same time, so is Kyle Pitts. And I wouldn't call Kyle Pitts a bust, but we were drafting Kyle Pitts like he was the top wide receiver of the class. I don't know.
I
You
mean,
just don't know. That's the whole point. You just don't know.
and Bowers is going fairly high as well. I mean, we just started our rookie draft this week in our main league, and Bowers went pick six, if I'm not mistaken. So,
Since we're going to be doing a mock today, by the way, spoiler alert. Do you
spoiler
think
alert.
do you think that Bowers should go before Xavier Worthy or after Xavier Worthy?
Hmm.
At
I
least
would
in the
say
class. Like if you let's ignore Austin's situation. I get why he made that pick with his situation. Do you think Bowers is someone who's more talented than Worthy?
more talented, yes. Would I make the pick in Dynasty rookie drafts? No.
No. You would go with
No.
Worthy before you would go with
I would go
Bowers.
with Worthy. I would go with Brian Thomas as well over
Before
Bowers.
Bowers.
And I would go
Uh,
with Lab ahead of Bowers. That's probably where I draft Bowers then.
Lad McConklin over?
Yeah, Lad
Okay.
McConkey. I'm very high on Lad McConkey right now.
Apparently. Ooh. Speaking of which, you're on the clock.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I have a
yeah,
few
yeah.
flyers out. I have a few flyers. You
Uh,
know what? This is a really shitty pick, I gotta say. And I think
Why did you
this
ask for
is
DK Metcalf for this pick, thinking that I was actually going to take that bait?
rookie hype,
What the
dude.
fuck were you
Rookie
thinking?
fever. Plus,
Fuck off.
there's no one that has, how do I put it? There's no one with an intermediate value. It's like it's either DK, after that you jump really high, and below that there's no one that I actually liked on your team that makes up. Yeah, I was looking at it, and it's like, okay, QB, I don't need a QB. If I needed one, I would have taken Jaden Daniels here. Then I'm
I'm
looking and
right.
running back. I'm looking at the running backs, and I'm not entirely certain why I would go with those instead of Blake Corum. And then wide receiver, it's DK, Judy. I'm out on Jefferson, Devonta Smith, and
I know
that's
I've been
a
trying to
lot of
get a
it.
Judy.
Yeah, and like Jefferson, Olave, and Smith, I gotta bet you rank them above DK Metcalf.
I
So
I'm gonna tell you a funny story. So
nice.
after you said DK, I looked at where he finished the season. He finished 21 according to the sleeper app. And
Yes.
then I looked at my other wide receivers.
Yes.
And other than Justin Jefferson, who was injured like 2/3 of it, everyone else finished higher than DK. And DK finished 21. And I was like, well, huh.
I mean, he has ups and downs in his production. It is what it is
Oh,
with
for sure.
DK.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
just
you live for the boom. You live for the boom, and then you try to have. That's kind of what I have built around him. When he's booming and suppressive, and then when he's not, I got production around him.
yeah.
So
So I just didn't see anyone else that could fit the bill for
that's
the
fair.
first right now. So
That's
it was the only one that I
DK for 112 was just like there's no way, dude.
yeah. But again, there's no one else that I would be interested on. So
That's
but
fair.
yeah,
Anyway,
this is just a
anyway,
shitty tier break. I really hope that Trey Benson would have fallen a bit more to my pick. Just one pick. But yeah, what are we doing today then, Angelo?
we're doing a mock draft that I suggested we
What's
stream, but we kind of just like sprung this up at the last minute, so no time to do all the proper things to stream. So
yeah. So
we're gonna make this interesting.
yeah, this is we will be posting this on Twitter, by the way.
The results.
If
Yeah,
the results, yeah, we're not streaming on Twitter. But yeah, we'll be posting the results on Twitter. If you're not following it yet, it's at No Reserves Radio, literally just that. Um,
yeah.
so you can find the mock draft in there, and this will be a 12 team 3 round mock draft, super flex. No tight end premium, I believe, but we can make it a tight end premium if you want. I'm gonna have the odds pick, so I start at 101. Angelo will have the evens pick. I'll start at 102. So, Angelo, tight end premium or no tight end premium?
No tight end premium,
No tight end premium. Fuck that.
but we are doing
So,
super flex.
we are doing Superflex, yeah. Otherwise, we would just be sitting here and it's like our regular league where no
He
one wants to
doesn't
take a
want me.
QB.
Yeah, he doesn't wanna. He doesn't wanna me to give away the secrets.
Yeah. Okay, so ready to kick it off?
Yep.
All right then. So I have the 101. Pretty straightforward. I mean, there's talks with Marvin Harrison Jr., there's talks with Caleb Williams. I mean, Caleb Williams, great QB, great landing spot. He has weapons around him. All is fine and dandy. So yeah, I'm gonna take him over the.
He's kind of the top pick here,
Yeah, I
and that's. But
oh, go ahead.
and I don't blame you. It seemed Caleb Williams. Yep. I don't blame you. It's kind of he's in a really good situation now, dude. Like they followed that up and got Roma Dunze on top of the wide receivers that are already there after acquiring Keelan Allen, after acquiring DeAndre Swift, after acquiring what God
DJ
EJ
Moore
Moore
last
the
season.
previous
Yeah,
year. Yeah. This dude is just set up for success,
yeah.
and that's kind of what you're looking for.
I think this will
So
be fun. But there are some mock drafts on Twitter that I've been seeing, and just actual drafts, rookie drafts, where Marvin goes first. Surprising
and I
enough.
feel that. So with the second pick, I am going to select the best wide receiver in the class who only has to compete with a tight end.
Up to it.
And I can't do anything. It's paused. This mother.
It is paused. Because if I unpause it, Sleeper is gonna screw us up. But go ahead. I have to stop it right after. Select it. All right. Who did you pick, Angela?
I picked Malik Nabbers.
Oh my god.
There's no one in that Giants team. There's no one, dude. There is no one. There is no one on that Giants team who's even close to the level of athlete Malik Nabbers is. And Brian Daboll, whether you like him or hate him, they kept him and the OC around. So I gotta believe that the Brian Daboll that got everything out of Josh Allen and continued on Diggs' trajectory to be one of the best wide receivers in fantasy, that he can do just the same with Malik Nabbers. I'm sorry. I
So
picked the best athlete in the class
let me ask you something.
and probably the best wide receiver.
Let me ask you something.
Go ahead.
Who is in Arizona stealing targets from Marvin Harrison Jr.?
The better tight end, Trey McBride.
So that's it. So do you think McBride will have what? 200 targets?
I don't know, maybe 500.
Your Marvin Harrison 8 is just. I mean, I'm not blaming. I'm not even. I don't have any issue with it. I have the 103, so it's the easiest Marvin Harrison Jr. pick ever. So I can just make it right now. Marvin Harrison Jr. Bang. Easy enough. I do not understand how you skip Marvin Harrison Jr. for Nabers. Like, I wish Austin thought just like you, or you had the 101.
Or I had the
Truly did. Truly did. I think it. And I like Nabers. I like it quite a bit. I like him quite a bit. I drafted
Apparently
him in
not as much
102
as
in our
me.
league.
But
But
apparently not
no
as much.
way in hell do I think he's a better wide receiver than Marvin Harrison Jr.
He's faster. He's more agile.
I don't know. I don't know that.
Yes, I do. I know.
No,
I know for
I don't.
sure.
I don't. Do you know that Malik Nabers 40 is actually unofficial? He doesn't have an official 40, as far as I'm aware.
Well, yeah, but all of Marvin Harrison Jr.'s metrics are unofficial. So what's your point?
Yeah, I don't know if he's faster than him.
I do.
Maybe he is not. The only one that we know for sure is fast is Roma Dunze, because he tested everything. I don't know anything about these other guys.
Okay.
None of it is
Anyway.
official. But yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr., pick 103. Okay, so now you have to actually tell me your picks so I can make them
Okay, that's
here.
fine. That's fine. That's fine. I just wanted to make sure it was on the record that I got to hit the little green button that said pick Malik Nabbers. I'm probably not going to get to do that this year, Alex. I wanted to get to do it once.
All right.
So anyway,
You do you. Okay, your next pick.
Jaden Daniels. I think that the system is. What was that? Anyway, I think that the system is great. I think that the coaching with the talent is correct. And I think that if you liked Washington last year, you should like them this year because the talent around it is similar. And it's a better quarterback than Sam Howell. Say it.
He's a better quarterback than Sam Howell.
Thank you. More agile, more athletic. I just think this is a good situation to go into for Daniel. So, go ahead.
I mean, I like the pick. Nothing I can argue against that. He is, again, when we were doing the draft show, I said that Jaden Daniels would be ahead of Drake May now. I mean, NFL teams looked at the two guys and said that Daniels is better, so who am I to say he's not? So, yeah, I'm okay with it. He has a rushing upside, this super flex, all makes sense. Now, in the draft show, I also said that I would probably have JJ McCarthy over Drake May.
Yes, you did.
It was probably an overreaction, heat of the moment type of stuff. I'm still going to stick with my guy, my second son, and I'm going to make him the 105 here. So I'll draft Drake May.
Really?
Yes. I've gone back and it's like this guy is the third pick in the whole draft. The Patriots followed this up by drafting wide receiver with
No.
Polk in the second round. Went ahead and drafted another wide receiver late, invested in the offensive line as well. I mean, this is an organization that is telling you that they are ready to succeed with this guy. They are putting him in a position to succeed. I don't like the head coach. I don't like the OC whatsoever. He's a retread. No, like innovating stuff coming from there, in my opinion. But he is in a good position right now to maybe try and succeed, in which Mac Jones was never really in that sort of position. The defense is still pretty good. It's still
Mhm.
going to hang out. So, I don't know. I
Drake
think
May is
I'm
walking a very fine line. I think Drake May is flirting with the line between Zach Wilson and CJ Stroud, and I'm not sure which way it's going to go. Because I don't think, like, for some reason, Drake May doesn't feel to me like someone who's just going to have, like, a good career. Like JJ McCarthy. If JJ McCarthy just has, like, a good, solid, like, Kirk Cousins like career where he's fairly consistent, I could see that. For some reason, that's not what I see with Drake May. I think Drake May is either going to be looked at as the top quarterback in this class or a dude who shouldn't have never been drafted. That's just my feeling. I could be completely wrong, but what are your thoughts?
no, I don't blame you. It's certainly true that this can go south very quickly. I'm not denying that. But I think he has the talent. I think he now has some weapons to work with that Mac Jones didn't have. And I'm just like being drafted third overall is just gives you so much bigger of a leash to the point in where I think he has sort of 3 years probably guaranteed of being the starter, and then the doubts probably come in. And I think in those 3 years he can reach for that. I mean, the history for UNC QBs isn't great. The recent
No,
history
it's
you're
not.
looking at, yeah, Nick Trubisky, not the best. Also drafted super high, but he did have the leash again. He did have 3, 4 years as a starter with the Bears before he got moved, and he had some sort of success in that time. He led them, didn't really lead them, but got the team some sort of help to make the playoffs. It was mostly the defense, but still, he got the playoffs with the Bears. So I think Drake May can at least have some sort of success and just build from there versus McCarthy, who I think has more questions coming out of college. And while the situation is much better, uh,
Yes.
gotta stick with my pre-draft take that Drake May is probably QB2 in this. Plus, the draft capital justified it.
Sure. So now the question is, so now the top two players on the board, and we can do the top three. I guess you could debate this. Roma Dunze, JJ McCarthy, Brock Bowers. I think that even in Superflex, after you have Caleb's, Daniels, and May, I do think a Dunze needs to be selected. I think Nabbers, Harrison, and Dunze needs to be selected within the first six picks with Caleb, Daniels, and May or McCarthy, whichever one you have better. So right here, it's Roma Dunze.
Roma
So
Dunze.
yeah. So my question is, what? And this is just the way my brain thinks. This is why I am really shit at dynasty sometimes and really good at redraft sometimes. Do you think there are mad lads who will like overpay to get a Caleb Williams Roma Dunze stack?
They're probably their son. Now, my issue with it is that we've made the stance before with JSN last year. Now people are saying that Odunze is much more talented than JSA. And he did get drafted
JSN.
higher. JSN, yeah. And he did
He
get
got drafted
drafted
a lot
higher.
higher, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Like, I believe JSN last year went around pick 20.
Sexton.
This year,
Yeah.
Odunze, yeah, it was
Oh, no,
in
no, end of the
Seattle.
first, end of the first. I thought it was early second. Anyway, go on. Sorry. You're
No,
right.
no, I believe he went pick 20 on the dot, if I'm not mistaken. It was either 20 or 21, something like that. The Chargers picked after. And then it's like, okay, he got drafted to see the Seahawks. There was a lot of hype around JSN. Like, he was being called as the best guy out of the Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave trio. Um, and people were hyped about him. And then he goes to Seattle, and it's like, okay, he has DK Metcalf, which is a young wide receiver that has shown to be capable of being a wide receiver one. On the wings, he has Tyler Lockett as well. He's older. I mean, he's nearing 30, around 30 years old. So maybe they're drafting him, and next year Tyler Lockett is gone. So I'll draft him. He sits on the bench 1 year, and I'm telling myself that this guy is not going to lose some sort of value. This guy's going to stay put. People that drafted JSN were just convincing themselves that I'm not going to make a discount on this guy. I'm not going to make the discount on this guy because next year will be his year. Okay, now we flash forward a year, and it's like Tyler Lockett is still here. The OC is now changed. The head coach has not changed. Metcalf is still here, so he's still wide receiver three probably. His value didn't probably just crash down a bit after Lockett resigned. Not necessarily because he will be behind Lockett for the entirety of this season, but because there's just more mouths to feed. You look at Mike McDonald, he's a defensive head coach and all of that, much like you have now with the Bears. Now, not now with the Bears, but much like you have with the Bears still with Eberflus. And it's a more run-centric offense with the Seahawks. So I'm seeing a lot of parallels here with it's DJ Moore, which is DK Metcalf, Keenan Allen now with Tyler Lockett. Allen is on a short contract, sure, but next year he can resign. He can, if things work out well, you want to give Caleb Williams a continuity. So I'm just sitting here and I'm asking myself, drafting Odunze here, are we entirely certain that if he has a rookie season, much like JSN, and I understand they play different positions on the field, Odunze is probably going to play more on the outside. JSN played more on the slot, so he's taken out in two wide receiver sets. Odunze, it's hard for me to say that he won't because Keenan Allen is just such a good wide receiver. And now people are starting to say that Keenan Allen has fallen off. I didn't really see any of that last year when he had a great overall season. So Odunze seems to me like the guy who people will hang on to and hoping that next year is the year that he takes a leap forward. And I'm not entirely certain if that's true. So you're drafting him fairly high, which you need to. It's clearly a three wide receiver leading up here.
Yep.
But I think there's guys that you can take. You can probably trade down in this pick. And now we didn't have this option here, of course. But I think the wise move with Odunze might be to trade down, acquire some value, and draft one of these guys that I think are really close in value with him, between a Worthy, between a Lav, one of those two guys, for
So then
example.
here's the question for you. You could argue this is in Superflex, and you can definitely argue this is in one quarterback leagues. Is the 5-6 pick for you kind of like a trade down pick? Like you don't want to have to make a selection there?
In
Right?
Superflex, 6, it's probably the place in which I might look to trade down or draft JJ McCarthy. But the pick in which I have to make the Odunze pick is probably the one in which I think about moving down. Yes. The first real pick that I try to move down. It's that one.
Okay.
Because I think he's a guy that will probably lose some sort of value.
All right. Your pick.
All right,
Pick
then.
7.
Pick 7. I'm going with, gotta have JJ McCarthy here. It's just great situation. Top 10 draft pick in the NFL draft. I like the head coach. I like the OC. He didn't really wow me in college, but I think he has enough to the point in which the situation, and it's what we talk in the NFL draft. Situation needs to play a bigger role when we're making this decision, and JJ McCarthy has the absolute best situation. So I think this is a pretty clear tier cut here. For me, this is probably the first tier. I probably swapped McCarthy with Odunze and called that the first tier. Now here it's massive tier break here for me. You're sitting at 108.
I am saying
You're
at 108.
thinking. You're thinking, he's right. This is a big tier break.
You're not wrong.
Okay,
So
who's the pick then, Angela?
I'm not a fan of picking a tight end, especially
Oh,
not with one of my goddamn first round picks.
oh, buddy.
Ryan Thomas.
Okay, Brian Thomas Jr. I like that. I like that quite a bit. Brian Thomas Jr. But you know who I like even more than Brian Thomas Jr.?
I mean, I just like the fact that Tony Khan likes him, so he'll tweet if he doesn't get on the field. What's up?
The guy that I like even more, Xavier Worthy. I think we finally might have
Oh my!
a
Don't do it, Alex!
true
Don't fall for the trap! Oh,
next Tyreek Hill.
it's a trap, Alex! It's a trap.
I
We
mean,
thought it
I
was.
will.
We thought with this with Sky Moore. We thought this with Rasheed Rice when he had his
Nicole
breakout year.
Hardman
Now
as well.
Nicole Hart. How many people need to hurt you for you to realize that the Tyreek Hill thing is just a pipe dream? It's not
It could
actually
be.
going to happen again, except for a very long time.
I think
Rondale
he does
Moore.
not. I don't think he has the twitchiness of a Tyreek Hill. He's probably a bit faster than a Tyreek Hill. But the change of direction is really what makes Tyreek Hill Tyreek Hill. And I think Xavier Worthy is probably a few tiers below in that department. But I think he makes it up with speed and good deep ball tracking here for him. I mean, you're looking at a guy that played 3 years in Texas and almost 1,000 yards as an 18-year-old freshman playing in Texas, at a 30% target share as an 18-year-old playing in Texas, 12 touchdowns. The Chiefs move up for him. You're looking at a guy Reno, 4.21, fastest 40 ever. Then you're looking at a 96th percentile burst score. You're looking at a 91st percentile catch radius. Speed score is a bit lower than that. 97 percentile breakout age. I mean, this guy screams that he's gonna be a beast. Now, is he John Ross? I think he's, when you're looking at the profile of the player, I definitely think he's a better player than John Ross was when he came out. John Ross really only had the speed. His route tree was very limited back then. I think Xavier Worthy's a few steps
Man, you just give an
above
example
that.
of things that are about to hurt you.
It could very well end up hurting me, but I think he has Mahomes. I think he has the draft capital, and I think he has the production. So I like him, and I think this is possibly the first time that we actually see Tyreek Hill 2.0.
You're wrong.
I definitely could be wrong.
You're not gonna like this next pick.
Who is it?
Mm, I don't know if I do it. You know
I
what?
don't even I don't even
Well,
think you like this next pick.
I don't. I really don't want to go Brock Bowers here, but I think I'll save the melting pick for next pick. So give me Brock Bowers here. Um, I am just not a fan. Brock Bowers is a supreme athlete. He is in Vegas, and I don't know. I'm not buying the two tight end sets that him and May are gonna pick. I think that Bowers is definitely gonna have some growing to do in the NFL. He's the best tight end of this class, bar none. But
Yes.
I have just not had a history of liking to select tight ends, especially with first round draft picks. But go on. Who's your next one?
I also didn't really like your pick, but I'm gonna like mine. Next up,
Don't do-
I'm
just
selecting
don't do it.
the lad from Georgia, Led McConkey. I think he might be one of those guys that has a top 10 wide receiver season in his rookie season.
Stop
I mean,
it.
there's no
Stop
target
this.
competition. I understand that this is going to be a run heavy team, but I mean, he's the perfect Keenan Allen replacement. He's a savvy route runner. He's great out of the slot. He's going to be peppered with targets. There's no one there that is even half of the talent that Lad has. I think he's poised for a great rookie season. And if push comes to shove and they do not trust him 100%, they draft someone else next year, he's someone that you can flip for an absolute haul next season. I think you can be looking at a rise that it goes from like, I don't know, he's going to be ahead of where Puka Nacua was last year, but I think he can definitely jump into the top 10 wide receivers in Dynasty when we're talking about wide receivers next season. Just.
Okay. Give me Bo Nix.
Bo Nix.
Bo Nix.
Okay. Why Bo Nix?
A lot of these players, I'm sorry, I just don't buy the hype. I haven't looked too much into rookie. Actually, that's someone I was wanting to look into before we started here. But I just do not buy the hype with Keenan Coleman. I think it's just the landing spot. He was very productive in college, and that's usually a good sign of things to come. But he is so slow, dude. He ran like a 4.6. And that's not saying you can't win in the NFL with a 4.6 speed. It's just there's
I
just like warning flags on top of warning flags on top of warning flags with all of these guys I see. And
I agree with you. There's a bunch of these guys that I'm fairly afraid of. I think Keon Coleman, as you mentioned, is probably a guy that would look pretty good and would
I
strive
think
when
he's gonna
playing out of the flex. But I don't think that's the role that he's gonna have with Buffalo. So I'm not
no, they're
entirely
gonna
certain if he's gonna feast.
they lost Gabe Davis and Stephon Diggs. He's immediately going into like that Stephon Diggs role or Gabe Davis role, one of the two.
And I
Like,
don't think he's a good fit for that.
yeah. So we have a history with God, my brain just didn't want to work today. The Broncos head coach.
The current Broncos head coach, Sean Payton.
Yes, Sean Payton. Yeah. Sean Payton does have a history of making offensive work. Even if you want to say Russell Wilson is bad, Russell Wilson did have a better season from last year compared to the previous season. And if the dude believes in Bo Nix, and here's the thing, Bo Nix didn't have like a very good, like a first round rating for most people, right?
Yes,
If he
he
believes that
was.
much in the guy, then he's as invested as in Bo Nix as the Bears are in Caleb Williams at this point. This is his career. If this flums, he's not going to be in Denver. Like
Hmm,
so, I feel more confident in that opportunity than I am with the rest of the people here.
I agree. I think he is probably a guy that, from what I've been seeing in mock drafts, he probably goes a bit earlier than we have him here. I think he
Oh
goes
wow!
right around after the Brian Thomas Xavier Worthy. I think that's
I just
usually
looked
his
at
spot.
Ricky Pearsall. He has amazing athletics, but he didn't produce in college, really.
Here's the case for a lot of these guys. When you're looking at Xavier
Yeah,
Legette as well, it's
yeah.
the same. So it's tough. But there's a QB that was a top 10 draft pick
Well, here we
in the
go.
NFL draft. And I didn't like the landing spot at first. But I came to find some interesting data. Let me read you something. So, out of the 42 QBs selected inside of the top 10 in the past 20 years, all of them went to either year one or year two as the starter for their team. So, could Michael Penix go into season two as a starter for the Atlanta Falcons? There's always a first, but so far, that seems to be guaranteed.
I don't honestly like. Here's the I was debating that, but here's the weird thing about this pick. What was Michael Penix's selling point going into this class?
It was NFL ready.
That he was NFL ready. He was the most polished out of the group, and he's the oldest. He is the oldest quarterback out of the group, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe
So,
so. I believe Bo Nix is older, if I'm not mistaken, but like by months, a month or two.
so why did the Falcons pay Kirk Cousins $100 million, then select the most NFL ready quarterback? It doesn't make sense. Like, we're talking about this guy might not see the field until he's like 25, 26.
Okay, I'll play devil's advocate. I think the Atlanta Falcons, after years of having consistent to good QB play out of Matt Ryan, found themselves in like 2 years with
Of
very
hell.
underwhelming QB production. Yeah. And they just don't want to stay in that hell. Now, I don't like the pick. I think the pick
It was
was,
stupid.
you're
It was
thinking
stupid on so
worst.
many levels.
Yeah, and you're thinking about worst case scenario for your $200 million QB that you just signed when that's not really what you should be doing. But I understand it from the standpoint of if they trust that this is because reportedly them and a bunch more teams in this draft, for example the Seahawks, had Michael Penix as the number two QB on their board and a top five player overall in this draft. So if you look at him in that lens, and you're looking at just a play, if you're thinking purely of BPA, and you're looking at a guy who is the second in his position, a top five player for you, and he has fallen all the way down to 9, from that standpoint, I understand drafting him purely because of the value. And you have the positional value, you have the value because he's a guy that is falling down your draft board. Sure, you could look at a guy like Dallas Turner, you need defensive help. You could look at a guy like Quinion Mitchell, you need defensive help. But if those guys are much lower in your draft board versus the guy that you have as a top five player, then I think it's understandable why they drafted Michael Penix in that lens. Plus, you also have all of the tampering allegations that they have with Cousins. That could cost them their next year's first. Could be a scenario. I mean, the Dolphins lost a first round pick recently. I'm not entirely sure what it was for. I just know that they lost it a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. So, with that said, again, if he is the first QB ever that doesn't start for his team in either year one or two out of the top 10 guys, I'm fine taking that risk because the excuses are built in. Like, I'm drafting him at 201 here. I can almost guarantee you that next season I can get this same pick or better for him. Because if he doesn't start, then it's, yeah, I was always drafted to be a starter this year or next year. So it's not really a talent issue for him until he sees the field. It's just going to be like, this is how you save value, I guess. So I'm going with Michael Penix at 201 here. I understand going with Knicks ahead of Michael Penix purely because he's going to see the field early and all that. But I think Penix, although I don't like him as a player, I think he has upside, and I think he probably keeps a lot of his value going forward here.
So, what happened to Jordan Love?
He was drafted. He sat for 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. Then he started.
Huh? And what happened in the years between year one of him being drafted and him starting?
He rode the bench and lost value.
He rode the bench and lost a lot of value. Yes. So here's the thing. If you select Michael Penix, you're basically saying, I am not trading this guy until he starts. You're committing to
Yes.
that.
Yes.
In Dynasty League. In Dynasty, where you want to be fluid and flexible, you are committing 2, 3, maybe 4 years of stashing this guy on your roster. Not everyone can
Well,
do that, Alex.
that is true, but technically might just be 2 years. Plus, the Jordan Love pick is a bit different since he was a late first round pick. and he was drafted much later than this. So, yeah, of course, he's not going to be valued as much as Michael Penix. But I think if I'm sitting here next year and I'm on the clock, and next year's class is a very shitty class for QBs, I think I can trade Michael Penix for a first.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right.
Who you got at 2.2?
Here's where I have to make a decision. Give me Trey Benson.
Oh, buddy, why do you do me like this? I was certain that I was gonna be just tearing you up this draft. I mean, I got Caleb, I got Marvin Harrison Jr., I got Xavier Worthy, I got Lav, I got Penix, and I just needed Trey Benson to complete like my holy grail of players. Yeah, you got the best running back in this draft class. To
No,
me,
I
at
didn't
least.
yet.
I think he is the best running back at this draft class. I think
Yeah.
you look at a
Did
Jonathan
Brooks even
Brooks.
test? I was actually looking at his profile and he
No,
was college product. He didn't even test.
no, because of the ACL. He's
All right.
recovering for the ACL. Supposedly, he is on track to at least attend part of camp. So he should recover relatively soon-ish. But I still think that Troy Benson is the guy. I think he probably starts a bit slow, but eventually James Conner tends to miss a few games. And when he has the chance, I think he has the talent to be a good NFL running back. Not, I mean, there's red flags for him. There's the whole pass blocking stuff. There's the whole pass catching stuff. There's games, for example, versus LSU, who had a really shitty defense. First game of the season for Florida. Trey Benson looked awful in that game. But I think he reminds me so much of Kenneth Faulkner. That's maybe why I am so, how do I put it? So enamored by Trey Benson that I really, really want to get him everywhere. And I'm afraid that I'm not going to get him in a lot of places. So you made a great pick here. I think he can be the running back one of this draft class. At least he is for me right now. Well, with him out of the board, I guess I have to go with Jonathan Brooks. It's the one of the last few picks before, or I guess the last pick before this goes tits up. So Jonathan Brooks it is for me at 203 here. So pretty self-explanatory pick. I mean, he was the highest drafted running back in this draft class. He's competing with Chuba Hubbard, with Miles Sanders. I think he's probably the best out of those dudes. I don't expect a whole lot this year because he probably starts slow. Probably Chuba starts the year as the starting running back for the Carolina Panthers. Eventually, Jonathan Brooks probably takes over, finishes the year strong, but I don't expect a strong and consistent running back one production from him this year. So now, Angelo, have fun, bud.
Thanks, buddy.
It's a shit show now. And this is the exact situation that I'm in our draft.
Yep. Pretty much.
Good luck. Actually, I don't even have Keon Coleman to select, so.
Oh yeah, that's right. Well, you will hear.
Who are
Give
you
me a
going with?
Donnie Mitchell.
Donnie Mitchell. I don't know. Donnie Mitchell might be the guy that I skipped that is actually decent, but I have
Because here's the
so
thing. Here's
little
the thing.
faith for him.
I guess you have no faith, but he has good college production. He has great athleticism. And if you believe in Anthony Richardson, which I would not claim that I am, but if you are one of those people, then he's a wide receiver under a good quarterback. What's not to like? You don't like the competition, Michael Pittman and Josh Downs?
I think Michael, this is an offense that in my eyes is going to be very run heavy right now with Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor. Then I think Michael Pittman will probably get his. And I think, honestly, Josh Downs, I think he's a better wide receiver than Adonai Mitchell. I was a Josh Downs guy last year. I like them
You
coming
are
out. It is a
did.
pretty good like rookie season so far. Last year he had a pretty solid rookie season. Then you're looking at a guy like Adonai Mitchell, and he was someone that was being talked as a first round pick. He fell in the draft. Apparently, it's due to the diabetes concerns. Apparently, when he is not controlling the diabetes stuff correctly, he tends to be a whole different human being. Apparently, mood swings, gets very out of it, not focused at all of that. Reportedly, a coach was like, if you draft this guy, you basically have to have a babysitter for him, which seems pretty disrespectful for the guy.
Yes.
But I mean, Ballard was pretty excited of getting this guy.
I
Uh,
would be too. He's like 6'4" and he runs like a like. Here's the thing,
he's
like
6'2".
I'm not I'm or 6'2". I'm not saying on like off the field stuff isn't valid. I'm saying he's a better Keenan Mitchell or whatever you're about to select. Keenan Coleman, sorry, Keenan. He's a better Keenan Coleman in
Yeah.
every way. In
I mean,
every
yeah,
way,
when you're looking at the workout metrics, sure. I mean,
yeah.
he is
And the production,
96,
and the production.
97. I mean, the production, he had one season of over 800 yards, and it
That's
was
fair.
at age
I'm
21.
being
So,
unfair to Keenan Coleman. He was a very productive college. I'm being a little bit
yeah,
unfair.
yeah,
I might be too
I
much
don't
in the
know.
moment, but I
Did
might be too
not
much.
have a
But
whole lot
he's
of
better.
production.
Donnie is better. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I do not see the volume to make him a meaningful player right now for Adane. But I understand. I understand what's to like about him. I understand like analytically he is pretty solid in terms of his testing metrics. I understand all of that. I just cannot get on that camp right now. I mean, NFL teams told you that he he went down and he lost draft stock for a reason. He wasn't selected in the first round like many thought. He was selected closer to the mid of the second round. I believe he was picked 202, 2.20 if I'm not mistaken, in the second round. So I just cannot get behind that right now. I think that the targets won't be there. I think he still needs to beat out Alec Pierce to even have a role because I think him and Alec Pierce will probably have the same sort of role in that offense. And he needs to beat him first before he can even get into the will he get targets above Josh Downs. And Josh Downs has 1 year of repertoire. I guess not 1 year, but he has a few practice sessions of repertoire with Anthony Richardson, and then like 2 games or three.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, he's got a whole year. He's had a whole year with her. God damn. Oh man,
But I
Gardner
understand.
Minshew. He has a whole year with Gardner Minshew.
Well, 205. Guess I'm sort of. I didn't really want to make this big, but it is what it is. I have to go with Keon Coleman. I think he will have at least the opportunity. He was drafted with the first pick in the second round. Do I think he will be a successful wide receiver? Do not like a whole lot in his game. I think the position that he will probably play is not the one that he is most suited for. But at the end of the day, I mean, production, having a lot of targets is probably king here for him. So I expect him to get peppered with targets and do something in terms of production. And if he does, then he's someone that's going to get hyped because he's going to be the wide receiver one for Josh Allen. And if he doesn't, then I burn like a 2.5, which isn't the end of the world. I think he has upside to be much more than the 2.5, 2.05. Hey now, Angelo. Who is it?
What I'm realizing is that after we finish this, I am amending my
Your
my
trade
statement.
offers?
The
You're
trade
like,
offers, yes,
nope.
but I'm amending my statement to stop including the second round picks as an interest.
Yeah, it's like there's likely someone here or two, three players here that are going to produce. Do I know which one of them will? Hell no.
All right, give me Xavier Leggett.
Okay.
Carolina traded up into the first round to have him, so they have the 5th-year option. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to admit this: there is no wide receiver in Carolina other than the one they just traded for, Deontay Johnson, and an old Adam Thielen. Leggett has good athleticism. He has good college production. He
Uh,
broke out.
um, um,
Go ahead.
Double check that one.
Oh, he had a 72 percentile college dominator. That's good college production. He did break out late. He did break out late.
Dude,
Go ahead.
until his age 22 season,
Uh-huh.
so across his first three seasons, he had um 33 receptions. This is across 3 years.
It is. I'm
33
looking at it.
receptions
I'm looking at it.
and less than 300 yards, or right around 300 yards. Now, he is a QB that turned wide receiver. And I believe he has a very sad life story. I don't know what, doesn't really matter to this one, but I heard that there are some events in
Really
his
married
life
to me.
that are that are tragic. But that's an 8th percentile breakout age.
It's bad. The
And
breakout age is bad.
for everyone that doesn't know the percentiles, the closer you are to 100, the better.
Yes.
But yeah, go on. Maybe you can convince me because this is one of the guys that I'm thinking about taking.
Well, like I said, he's a first round pick. The Carolina Panthers have his 5th-year option. Everything I've been reading says that Carolina is absolutely ecstatic to have this guy. And like I said, other than the late breakout age, he had an amazing last year in college. He has good athleticism. Where you want?
I just think that they were also very excited about having Jonathan Mingo and Terrence Marshall Jr.
Oh no.
And, and those guys, I mean, they did great. That's why they're drafting wide receiver for the third time in a row.
Hey man, I did. At least I didn't let Terrence Marshall. At least Terrence Marshall taught me not to let Jonathan Mingo hurt me.
But he certainly hasn't told you that Xavier Leggett can't hurt you.
True. Very true.
Okay, Xavier Leggett. It is. This is a tough one. Guess I'm gonna go with Blake Corum. 2.07. Blake Corum is the pick. I mean, you're looking at a guy that was drafted, and in Sean McVay's word, this is basically like they like Kyron Williams quite a bit, so they drafted Blake Corum, who is like the carbon copy of Kyron Williams. Like, not the biggest guy, not the fastest guy, definitely not the fastest guy, but he probably has a better vision than a Kyron Williams. And he is a much better pass blocker. If I'm not mistaken, Kyron Williams ranked amongst one of the worst pass blocking running backs in the league last year. So now they get a Blake Corum who should be excellent at the pass blocking stuff. Has probably a better vision. Not the fastest guy, not the biggest guy. I mean, he's 5'8" for crying out loud. For crying out loud. So I'm just taking him, and I'm hoping that either he supplants Kyron Williams out of basically nowhere. Because let's not forget, before last year, Kyron Williams was not seen as a good NFL player. So I'm just hoping that Blake Corum can be a guy that dethrones Kyron Williams and becomes the bell cow running back. Or worst case scenario, I mean, he's an handcuff. He plays the 1B, the Charbonnet role last year for the Seattle Seahawks. Plays that role And Kyron Williams, when he misses games, because I mean, last season he did miss a few games as well, he just takes off and never gives the job back. So that's the scenario here. And Blake Corum is one of the guys that I'm thinking about drafting with the pick on the clock currently for my actual team.
Okay.
It's really shitty, isn't it, Angelo?
I don't believe in. Just give me rookie Pearsall. I've already gone over like the flit are gonna happen. He has a great athletic, but not knowledge. Kyle Shanahan believes in him. And only that it seems like the
You're cutting off a bit
Niners have
there.
this. This is the guy. What is I with this?
For Ricky Pearsall, I mean, he
Yeah,
was
could you
someone
see that?
that was
Just
projected. Yeah, but he was projected to be someone that was drafted in right around round two, maybe right. Niners definitely like them because they went ahead and drafted them in the first round, pick 31. I mean, he's almost 24 years old. He's 23.6 years. His breakout age is a bit better than Xavier Leggett. Here you're looking at 36 percentile breakout age. His college dominator, I believe it's a bit better as well, if I'm not mistaken, than Leggett's. He is probably a better athlete than Leggett as well. You're looking at a 40-yard dash, it's in the 90s percentile. Then, like, burst score, agility score, catch radius, all in the 98, 97, 98. I mean, production wise, he wasn't great. I mean, he had to change schools. He went to Arizona State, then he went to Florida. But I mean, he has the draft capital at this point, and it's like you look at the draft board, and it's like you are between a Ricky Pearsall, which was drafted inside of the first round, versus I don't know a guy like Troy Franklin, who was only drafted in day three. I mean, at some point, you need to take your own personal rankings aside and somehow trust in what the NFL teams told you. And they told you that Ricky Pearsall is three all rounds better than Troy Franklin at this point. Now, do NFL teams get it right all the time? No. Do the Niners particularly get it right all the time? No. I mean, they drafted Trey Lance inside of the top three. They remember Dante Pettis, who looked like a monster for half a season and then just disappeared. He was drafted inside of the round two, if I'm not mistaken. But if he gets the opportunity, and let's say Deebo Samuel gets moved, or Brandon Ayuk gets moved, then he's gonna fill one of those roles, and he's probably good enough to fill either of those roles. And just the motions in the Shanahan system and all of that, I think it can really utilize a guy like Pearsall pretty well and take him to the next level. So I think you are drafting Pearsall on the basis that he's a great athlete. He got first round draft capital, and there's likely an opportunity opening up either this year or next year in a good team with a great scheme that helps wide receivers quite a bit. So that's just the rationale behind drafting Ricky Pearsall.
Okay, so who's your next pick?
Okay, next pick for me. Okay, let's put it this way. There's a guy that I like better than the guy that I'm about to draft, but I do not think you are getting the guy that I like the most. So I'm drafting Jalen Wright here, running back for the Miami Dolphins. Jalen Wright, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he was my running back two in this draft class prior to the actual NFL draft. I like them. I mean, he's a great athlete. You're talking speed. You're talking about McDaniels liking speed. And where is it? I had things here. Ta 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 ta. My computer is not helping me. Thank you, computer. Okay, yeah, you're talking about Jalen Wright. You're talking about speed. I mean, he's a guy who ran a 4.38. Just absolute nut speed for him. I think he's a guy who is probably gonna be the long-term replacement of Ray Mostert. And my hot take here is that he probably is the 1A when it's A Chain and Jalen Wright. Because I think Jalen Wright is a guy that you can give more carries to than the Von A Chain. I mean, he's 5'11, 210. A Chain is much smaller. He weighs a bit less than Jalen Wright. I think Jalen Wright is an absolute amazing wide receiver, running back. I think it's the perfect scheme for him. The Miami Dolphins traded up for him. Actually, they traded into the third round for him. They moved out. They moved into the fourth round for him. That's it. They traded next year's third to get back into the fourth round and draft Jalen Wright. He's 21 years old, super young. His college yard per carry, I mean, it's 7.5, it's right up there in the 95 percentile for running backs. I think he's an absolute machine, and I think eventually he might even take Devon A. Chain's spot as the top running back for that team.
Hmm.
Okay, who do you got next?
I'm just looking at one more thing.
How to get even more disappointed.
Exactly. Marshawn Lloyd.
Ooh, the last running back that can be worth a damn. Marshawn Lloyd it is. So you are drafting what? The next AJ Dillon?
Yeah,
Not in
that
the
might be
sense
very possible.
not in the sense that it looks anything alike Aaron AJ Dillon, purely because he's probably gonna be the guy who's gonna back up the guy for quite a while, and we're gonna be hyping him up.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Marshawn Lloyd had a fairly decent college target share. So he does have some pass catching experience. And if we know anything about Josh Jacobs is he will need someone to spell him out in some pass catching situation. I'm not saying Josh Jacobs can't catch, but from what I've seen, it's better to use Jacobs with a pass catching back. True or false?
Probably true, yeah.
So he could see a lot more production than we expect. He does have potential. He has a very good BMI. He ran a 4.46 in the combine. College dominators, and he's basically had about average production, if not below average production. But opportunity will be there, and opportunity is king.
All
Go on.
right. Okay. So next up, I'm drafting. I'm drafting the next guy that is about to go to wide receiver U. I'm drafting Roman
There it is.
Wilson.
There. It's
Easy
not
enough.
gonna work.
It's not what?
It has to fail eventually.
I mean, one would say so, but I mean, so far he hasn't really shown any sort of how do you put it? They haven't really given you any sort of inkling of this isn't going to work. So I'm just gonna think that they are going to produce another great wide receiver. So give me Roman
Okay.
Wilson with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, he probably wasn't one of my favorite guys prior to the draft. I mean, you're looking at a guy with like 185 pounds, 5'11". He's from Michigan, so his production isn't anything great. I mean, never had a season over 800 yards. His breakout age is 22.2, which is, again, in the mud for the breakout age. I mean, it's 13th percentile. He is fast. I'll give you that. I'm just banking
So
on the
you have nothing.
Steelers.
So basically, what you're saying is you have nothing. You have absolutely
No,
nothing but blind faith that the
on the
Steelers are going to
Steelers.
be okay.
Yes, that is the pick. I'm drafting the guy who the Steelers probably are going to turn into someone. Yes. I mean, outside of targets, he's probably going to have some targets because he has a pretty good separator. I'll give him at least that. So he probably slots into Deontay Johnson's role pretty well. So yeah, it is Roman Wilson. Nice and dandy. Okay, close out the second round.
Well, I picked Bo Nix at the end of this pick. It's only suiting that I picked Troy Franklin with this one.
All right, Troy Franklin. Troy Franklin, it is. You are the Broncos, effectively.
Well, Team 12 is.
Team 12 then. Team 12 is the Broncos. I mean, it's weird how this guy fell. And I mean, you sort of have to trust NFL teams sometimes. I mean, he's 6'2", 176. The frame isn't great. But I mean, you're looking at the production, and it's like 19.6 breakout age. Just phenomenal. It didn't test super, super great for a guy his size. Ran a 4.41, but 94.3 speed score because he is fairly light. So his metrics weren't phenomenal. But then you're looking at Oregon and his production in Oregon. And I understand it's the system, right? Like the system makes a lot of this possible. But I mean, almost 14,000 yards at age 20. The connection is there with Bo Nix. I understand the pick, honestly.
Yep.
No.
Who you got?
Okay. Remember when I said there's a guy that I like more than Jalen Wright, but I'm not going to take him because you weren't going to take him?
Yep.
And I'm going to take him here. I'm going to take Jalen Polk.
I debated it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy who was drafted early in the second round. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was the guy who was drafted the highest out of any of the remaining ones. So draft capital, check. The rest, though, that's the thing, right? I mean, you look at his production, and this year he was pretty good. I mean, he had almost 1,200 yards, 12,000 yards. Wait, is it 12,000 or 1,200? I always mess it up with you guys' number.
1,200. It's
1,200. Because that's not how we learn it overseas. We usually said 1,200. We never really said like 1,200 or anything like that. It's just like the whole number. So sometimes I mess that up. Okay, but you're looking at him, and it's like outside of this year, but he basically did nothing in college for 3 years. I mean, he had this almost 700-yard season at 2022, but almost nothing. He was, for most of his college career, he was the third option in Washington. This year, Michael Penix goes off, so he goes off. He has a pretty solid season. I just think he has a lot of opportunity here. He's joining in the same year as the rookie QB, Drake May. So there's going to be a connection here. And he is an okay athlete. He's not phenomenal. But I think he has the production. He has the draft pedigree. So I'm just going to take him here because at 3.1, this is pretty good value, I guess. And if the draft board was bad before, oh, buddy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ah. Now it's a fun draft board. Let me tell you that.
I am just going to go with the chalk pick here and go Ben Sinote.
Benson note. So you take the two tight ends of this draft so far.
Yes, unfortunately.
The no tight end guy takes two tight ends. Perfect. Hey, I'm just gonna take your guy then. I'm gonna take Jermaine Burton. I am just hoping that the Bengals move off of the Eagles. If not, this is a pick that is probably not gonna pay out super soon.
No, it's probably a wasted pick at that point.
Probably, but
But
most
I mean, it's
third
third round
round picks
pick,
are
so
so.
exactly third. So live with the upside, baby.
So Burton it is here. We talked about him before. No need to give anything else.
True dat. Holy crap! There really is nothing.
It is really as sad as it seems. As dry as the Sahara.
What's with the Bucks and drafting like really good pass catching running backs? I just looked at Bucky Irving and you look at his profile and it's like, was he productive? No. Is he particularly fast? No. He had a lot of targets in college. Lovely, lovely,
So
lovely.
so he is what? Rashad what?
Yeah, pretty much. Ray Davis. Give me Ray Davis.
Okay. That's a good pick.
It is a
That
good
was
pick.
probably gonna be the guy that I was gonna go with
He
next.
is definitely an older back, being almost 20, basically halfway to 25 after when you're drafted. That's really freaking old, but he is a good pass catcher. He is athletic, and he could get opportunity because even though James Cook is the number one running back, running backs change quickly, and having good pass catching when you have Josh Allen is definitely a plus. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Plus he profiles pretty well as a goal line back.
yeah, yeah, he has a good
But
BMI. Yes,
yeah, and he wasn't like the Bills weren't necessarily thrilled about giving James Cook chances in the
James
red
Cook
zone.
also.
So
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
that makes sense. Okay then. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. This is a fun-looking draft class. Um. Hmm. Okay. I think at this point, I mean, draft capital again. I think it's probably the best thing we can do here. Uh, Malachi Corley. It's gonna be my guy. He was selected 65 overall, if I'm not mistaken. So he has that going for him at least. The wide receiver room for the Jets. I mean, there's Garrett Wilson. There's a banged up Mike Williams. So nothing. And in that regard, there's not a whole lot after Garrett Wilson. You're looking at a guy who had 3 solid years at Western Kentucky. His breakout age isn't phenomenal, but it's decent. It's right in the 50th percentile, so right in the middle. College dominator is okay. I mean, he's just, again, we're going with the draft capital. He's a day two player. There's not many of those left available. If
That's
Aaron
true.
Rodgers is back to his former self, then maybe we have something here. I mean, there's a rookie. He was looking forward to getting another weapon in the draft. Mike Williams is prone to injuries, so if he has a chance, I mean, he can find himself being the wide receiver two next to Garrett Wilson for an Aaron Rodgers offense. There's worse things in life than a third round pick,
Fair.
like any of the next one coming up.
Yeah. Give me Javon Baker. I'm gonna go with the chalk pick there. I think
Okay,
he has similar profile to Corley, except he was a fourth round pick. And the New England Patriots wide receiver room is very, very empty. So he could
that
carve
is
out.
true.
In fact, there's a chance that him and Polk both carve out a niche in the Patriots offense, and one of them wins out because I here's a spoiler alert. I really like um Now I need to look him up because I literally just acquired him. My brain is just all fuzzy today. I'm sorry. But Kendrick Bourne, I really like Kendrick Bourne, especially with the way he was producing before the ACL injury with the Patriots. He really seemed to take to that system. So, and I think it really does say something that they re-signed him even after the injury. So,
Yes.
but either way, yes,
And
Baker could carve out a niche with Polk, I think, in this system.
yeah. And I think
And with Drake
his
May there too.
contract is also like super heavy in terms of
Incentives.
bonuses for
Yeah.
objectives, yeah, for incentives. So he's gonna look to keep his job at least. I'm actually surprised you didn't draft this guy, and I'm gonna break your heart like you did with mine when you drafted Trey
Don't do it.
Benson.
I was waiting for the last
Yeah,
pick.
no, no, no,
No.
no. He's out of here. He is out of here. Bye bye. Next pick, Luke McCaffrey.
Oh.
It is what it is. Surprisingly enough, I mean, he is a guy who, like, no one really expected to go as early as he did, outside
True.
maybe of you.
Yeah, me.
Yeah, you're the only one.
Yeah. You can break my
But
heart in the
yeah,
regular league. The reason I'm trying to acquire third round picks is to draft Luke McCaffrey. So there you go. Enjoy.
yeah, he's a day two guy. He tested out okay, nothing phenomenal, but he's
I
okay.
I talked verbatim about McCaffrey. He is a very agile player, and we've seen, especially in the slot, players like that work in the NFL. I think he could be a very. I think this could be a steal of the draft.
The only thing is, will he get the targets? Because Terry McLaurin is there. You
Yep.
still have Jahan Dotson.
Jahan Dotson. Yep.
There's
Is Curtis still
it.
there? Curtis Samuel?
No, Curtis went to Buffalo.
Buffalo. Okay.
But again,
Someone had to go to Buffalo.
Jahan Dotson is a former first round pick, but he's the former first round pick by an old regime.
I'm about
So
to say, not
maybe,
on the staff, baby.
yeah. So now is this the first wide receiver that this staff drafted? Because I think it is, right?
That what?
They didn't draft anyone prior to McCaffrey in terms of wide receivers, did they?
I do not believe
I
so,
do
no.
not think so, yeah. I can double check. I have it open here. Uh, they are the last team. Yeah. So picks before were Jason Newton, Mike Sainristil, Jaden Daniels, Ben Sano, Brandon Coleman. Yeah. So no wide receiver drafted before or after. So this is the only wide receiver that this regime has drafted. He's gonna come into the league next to Jaden Daniels, my bad. So yeah, gonna go with McCaffrey. I think there's some sneaky upside here with him, much like you said before. Again, not to the level of a Led McConkey, but I mean, he's still making the transition from running back, if I'm not mistaken. He was a former running back. Pretty good last season at Rice. So yeah, gets the draft capital. We're in.
Well, now we go back to players I like. The number one running back in this class. Let's go, Isaiah Guerrero, right here. The best running back in San Francisco. Put it up there.
Oh my god.
What?
Isaac Guerrero.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if anything, I
So
guess that
player
moving up to
profile,
draft
like
Isaac Guerrero.
player profiler actually like ranks them based on athletic profile, if you didn't know that. And if you
Actually,
go to huh? And if you go
I
to
did not.
Isaiah Guerrero and you go down to the little thing that shows where he ranks positionally, he is the number one as athleticism score. He is the number one running back of this class. He is number 9 all
Oh,
time.
oh yeah, I see it here.
Yeah.
So he is an athletic freak. He's only behind TMC. Who,
Number
to
one
be
running back in this
honest,
class.
usually gets banged up at times. So I do not hate this pick. They moved up to draft Isaac Guerrero. This is not their original pick, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, solid pick by them. Guerrero, I mean, we talked about him at length here before. He is a phenomenal athlete. He's gonna be behind Elijah Mitchell, but Elijah Mitchell always gets hurt, so he should at least see some part of the field this year. Now, when we're talking about the 49ers and their drafting, we should point out that their last, I don't know, their last two or three mid-round running back picks all flamed out. So you're looking at a guys like Tyrion Davis Price. You're looking at a Trayvon Sermon, Trey Sermon, for example.
Grendo's better than all of them.
He is probably better than all of them, yeah. But there's a long-lasting tradition of 49ers burning picks on running backs that do nothing. Now, they usually get drafted in the third instead of the fourth, so maybe he is a bit different then. Okay, then. Next up. This is getting tricky. But I think we probably are going to draft the last tight end worth them. No, there's still 3 tight ends actually that I like, so maybe we're gonna skip that one. But this is a really bad. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna take one of the last players worth for them at his position. Pick 3.09. We're drafting, or probably burning the pick, on Spencer Rattler. Spencer Rattler
really good pick.
was. I mean, you can probably count in your hands the amount of QBs drafted around pick 150. So 150 is, if I'm not mistaken, a 5th round pick. You can probably count on your hands the amount of 5th round pick QBs taken across the drafts that actually did anything in the league. But you're looking at a team that has absolutely terrible cap space going forward. A QB that only you like, getting paid huge money, that usually gets banged up for a bit during the season. Now he usually toughens it up and plays through it, but maybe this year he can't or something like that. And you're talking about a guy in Spencer Rattler who was once in an Heisman conversation. Now, was this because of the hype when he was in high school? Maybe. I mean, he had the Netflix documentary and all of that. Apparently, he was falling because, according to he and Rappaport, teams were still seeing him in the light of the Netflix show that he was in, Spencer Rattler. But this is a guy who started out at where was it? It's not USC. It's Texas, right? Started out at Texas, if I'm not mistaken. Spencer Rattler.
I will go to
Yeah.
Scarlets.
Yeah, I'm checking it here, but I'm 99% sure it's Texas A&M. No, actually Oklahoma. Yeah, he started out at Oklahoma. He had all of the hype to be an Heisman candidate. Then Caleb Williams happens, and he gets benched. And a lot of people in his camp were like, "You need to get out of your ASAP." But no, he toughened up the season. He took his medicine. He stayed on the bench, rode the bench for the remaining of the season. The season after, then he moved to South Carolina, played with the Gamecocks, and apparently, according to his coach, this is a completely different player than what we saw in the Netflix show. This is actually a leader of a team. This is a guy who has kept his head down, who knows that he messed up by doing that, messed up his chances of actually getting drafted higher. So this to me is it's just a young player who made some poor choices before. And it's not even something serious. It's just like he was portrayed badly in a TV show that he thought he was okay doing because thank God with that. I mean, you're 17. There's worse things that you can do. So yeah, things happen. He gets drafted super late, so the amount of QBs taken around 5th round that succeed is the smallest thing. But I mean, at this stage, at 3.09, there's no one in the draft class that if they pan out can even get you closer to the value that a Spencer Rattler can probably get you if he pans out. So Spencer Rattler it is.
We got 2 picks left to.
You have 2 picks left. I have 1 pick left.
So I agree with going tight end, especially this late, because you want the upside. The question
Yes.
is,
Which one of the three?
I think
At
I'm
least
going to
for
go
me, it's true.
Cade Stover.
Interesting. He was not one of my three. Okay. So Kate Stover it is.
This might
Now,
be a bit of homerism here because, if I'm not mistaken, Cade Stover went to OSU.
yeah,
He
Kate
did.
Stover went to OSU.
So,
So just betting that Stroud does something with him.
well, not only that, Houston obviously has a really good quarterback. Dalton Schultz is there. I'm not going to say that he's not, but tight ends take a few years to develop anyway. And by the time that Kate Stover will have developed, Dalton Schultz should be closing in on the end of his tenure in Dallas. So it's really just an upside. With the third round, you just want upside picks. That's why I like to go tight ends later.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of players that can still give you some sort of upside here. I mean, you're looking at a guy like Bucky Irving if something were to happen on Rashad White, and this is true for most running backs here. I mean, Braylon Allen,
Yeah,
same
that's
thing
true.
with a
That's very
Brisson.
true too. Yeah.
Audric Estime, same thing with Jamal Williams. Plus, this is going to be a Sean Payton guy, not previous regime guy.
Mhm.
There's a lot of guys here that are at least somewhat interesting to have some sort of upside. It's just who are we going with? And I think I am between tight end as well. I'm gonna draft one tight end, and I'm between three guys. Jatavian Sanders, who was drafted by the Carolina Panthers, should have a lot of opportunity. I don't see anyone else in that team to play tight end because they had Aiden Nurse last season, but Aiden Nurse is probably going to retire due to the concussions. Mean you're looking at a guy who is pretty bang on average for his athleticism, but did some sort of production at Texas. Was drafted, if I'm not mistaken, inside of I believe he was the first pick of the fourth round. There's the pre-draft crush that I had with Theo Johnson, who was an athletic freak. Goes to the New York Giants. Not really a whole lot of competition there, much like the Malik Nabers story. He has Bellinger ahead of him, but I mean, you're looking at an hyper athlete. I mean, you're looking at a guy with over 90 percentile in
Bellinger has
almost
also been
everything.
there. Like, if I'm not gonna lie, like if Bellinger doesn't produce this year, if Bellinger's ship hasn't sailed yet, this might be the ship sailing
Yeah,
moment. If he doesn't
this
produce
is
this year, if Waller goes down.
this is his third season. I mean, Waller is probably going to retire. I believe that's the rumor right now.
Yeah.
Is that he's going to retire? So, I mean, you talked about the rankings in the class, and I'm looking at it for Theo Johnson, and he's the number one athletic tight end in this class. He is the sixth most athletic player in the whole 2024 class, and he's the
Yep.
seventh most athletic tight end ever.
Yep.
So, I guess I am saying that I'm drafting Theo Johnson.
That's a good pick.
It's like, as far as athletes go, I'm drafting an athlete. Okay, who's the last pick?
I'm a Bengals fan. We're gonna end it with a Bengal. Give me Eric Hall.
Eric Hall it is. Yeah, that was the last tight end that I was thinking about. Either Eric Hall or Jatavian Sanders. All right. And this is it. This is the mock draft. It's going to be available on Twitter again at No Reserves Radio. Just need to make a change here. How did you like our nice little draft?
it really like enlightened me on kind of the status of this because like the top 10 talents are really good. I'm not going to say they're not. But after that, I'm not sure like the end of the first round and the entirety of the second round feel that different. Is
Yeah.
that sad to say?
I think there is really a very, how do I put it? You can definitely feel the
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 drop off?
teardrops. Yeah, in tears. When you go from those first, I mean, even the top two wide receivers to Odunze, then from Odunze to after the Lad McConkey. When you go from Odunze to Lav, after Lav, I think the tier break at wide receiver it's massive because all of these guys are just a bunch of question marks, man. And at running back, I mean, it's Benson, it's Brooks, sure. After that, it takes another toll again because I mean, you can look at guys like Warren, Wright, Lloyd. Sure, you can put all of those in a next tier, but I mean, even the drop off from tier one to two is just so absolutely brutal that it's hard to justify it. It's one of the things that I've been facing when I'm trying to trade the pick currently on the clock. Is that everyone is like, yeah, you're sort everyone know, but the people that have answered me at least are like, yeah, that is you are in a massive teardrop right now.
Yeah.
And it is true, so yeah. Mock draft is in the books. Gonna be available on Twitter. Again, at No Reserves Radio. If you haven't been following us yet, you should. And hope you enjoyed this. First, I believe this is the first fantasy football content that we had since the end of the season. So, as we transition to more of a fantasy football season, this is probably gonna be more in the norm, right? We're probably gonna be doing a bit more fantasy football going forward. Wait, did I lost you?
I was muted. My bad. Yes, probably.
Oh,
You're
okay.
probably
I
right.
was like, oh, did I miss you?
Oh, I
Okay.
see you guys.
Okay, so yeah, stay tuned. It's gonna be more fantasy football stuff coming up. And yeah, are we signing off, Angelo? Anything else
We
to
are
add?
signing off. Sign us
We are
off, my man.
signing off. Okay, so just small thing. You are probably gonna see another logo change. I mean, new logos, new covers for the episodes, the football shows, basketball shows, all gonna have new covers. So don't strange that. If you like that, shout out to my girlfriend. She was the one who who designed those. Props to her. I think they look pretty good. What do you think? They are pretty solid.
She did really good. Yes. Tell her I said thank you.
Yeah. I'm
Hey,
gonna tell her that. And yeah. So guys, as Angelo used to say, there's a nice little donate button that you can click to help us out there if you want. If you're listening on the Apple podcast, if you're listening on the Spotify app, just subscribe to us, turn on the auto downloads, leave a 5-star review. All of those, we only accept 5 stars, so base off if you're not going to give us the 5 stars. And if you're listening on the YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, put on the like, turn on notifications, all of that good stuff. Again, follow us on Twitter at No Reserves Radio. We're going to be posting a bit more there. You can find the mock draft in there after this goes live on Thursday. We're recording on Tuesday. So,
Tuesday.
yeah. Yeah. Tuesday we're recording. Thursday it goes live, right?
Yep. 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Get ready.
So, stay tuned, guys. And as always, talk to you guys next week.
You can tell your girlfriend that I forgive her for not being a fan of mine.
All right.